Good evening and welcome to our program this evening. Your support makes this program possible, and we thank you for that. Haconet is the Haitian Community Network that you need to be part of, and we bring this program to you because we want to connect with you, and we want to connect you with Haitian services and Haitian professionals in our community. The idea is to have Haitians supporting Haitians, and in order to have a thriving Haitian community, not just in Ohio but everywhere, we need to start supporting each other. Thriving communities believe that all people, regardless of income or social statuses, deserve healthy environments where they can feel welcome and needed. And connection is the foundation of thriving. So, connecting with us via social media, you can email us, you can text us, and you can even give us a phone call. And today, we have as our guest a very bright young Haitian woman who's done well for herself and want to share some very important knowledge with our community. Today we have Ednice Wagnac as our guest. Ednice has been a resident of Columbus, Ohio since the early 2000s. Though she was born in the United States, she's been submerged in the Haitian culture thanks to her parents and the Haitian community in Columbus, Ohio. Ednice has always identified herself with her Haitian roots. She attended the Ohio State University for her undergrad studies, and she earned a degree in history. And she recently completed a master's in public health through Andrews University, and that with a focus on nutrition and wellness. Ednis desires to educate people on the importance on healthy practices and inform them on not only the physical benefits of caring for your health, but also uh, the mental and spiritual benefits of that. So, Ednis currently works as a public health analyst for Farms to International, and that's an organization that promotes abundant living through teaching health principles that can be applied to various walks of life. And without any further ado, let's welcome Ednis to our program today. Hello, Ednis, and welcome.
So much, Mark. Thank you for this opportunity. Um, it's such a blessing to, first of all, thank you for this platform. I think it's well needed, and I definitely agree with getting us together as a Haitian community, and we could do so much. There's power in us coming together. So, and like you mentioned, I just want to share today about some health principles that I think can transform our lives. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here.
That's wonderful, and we cannot wait. So go ahead and bless us with with knowledge.
Yeah. All right. Well, today we're going to talk about the 8 laws of health. All right. So, some health issues that we have here in the Haitian community um, are diabetes, high blood pressure, and also heart disease. I did like a recent search of the health issues, and I was kind of surprised to see certain headlines, and some of those headlines are here. So there was an article by Gelda Nicolas, and it talks about Haiti's resilience, quote unquote, and mental health. Um, and pretty much it talks about how I guess we're known for being a people that are strong. We went through the earthquake and we're still pushing, but there are some things that we are not dealing with, and we're just kind of like getting by. So I guess on the outside it may look like resilience, but really things need to be hashed out so that we can, inside we're not deteriorating. Another statistics that I found surprising was that Haitians suffer from hypertension 4 times as more than African Americans. Um, so this was an alarming fact here, and I mean there are some hypotheses as to why that is. And lastly, more recently, it says COVID-19 pandemic is a menace to Haitian American communities. So these are the issues that we're facing, and I want to propose the 8 laws of health as a way to kind of help us mitigate these issues and get past them and help us to focus on our health overall. So with the 8 laws of health, first is nutrition or alimentation. So nutrition is very important, as we know. That I feel like naturally the Haitian diet is very healthy. Back home, I remember I went to Haiti back in 2017, and we had like mango trees, coconut trees. The foods that we were eating were from our backyard, and that type of diet is best for us. But for those of us who are living in the States now, we've kind of adapted to the American diet, which the acronyms for the American diet is SAD, SAD. So the standard American diet. And that kind of speaks for itself. So we're always on the go, and in turn, we're eating things on the go. So here are some pictures of some beautiful produce that we should be eating more of. And, thankfully we have stores that have many of these resources, um, you know, fruits and vegetables that we see here locally, but also we have stores like Saraga that have some of the fruits that we've grown up with, like kosol and different types of mangoes. Um, Next thing that I wanted to mention is that we need to kind of slow down on the sugar and the salt intake that we have, kind of minimize that. For example, I know a lot of us cook with Maggi, but this is not the most helpful thing to add to our foods. I recently came across something that I think we can use as a substitute for Maggi, and I have a picture of it right here on the slide. It's called Better Than Bouillon. So what you do essentially is you kind of scoop a little bit out of it. It comes in a jar. So you scoop a little bit out of it and you add it to your food as you would Maggi. So there are healthier options out there, and our food can still taste healthful without having so much salt and sugar and things that can deteriorate our health. So let's just remember, manger plus manger la caille, like more fruits, more vegetables, more whole grains, and kind of stay focused on that. So exercise is another law that I think the American lifestyle can kind of veer us away from seeing the importance of it, but it truly is important, not just for the physical, but for the mental and ultimately for the spiritual as well. So the physical activity guidelines for Americans suggest that we should have 150 minutes a week of moderate physical activity or 75 minutes a week of intense physical activity. So an example of moderate physical activity could be walking or maybe like lifting weights. And a realistic view of this workout schedule, 150 minutes a week, would be working out for 30 minutes a day for the next 5 days. So 5 days a week, working out 30 minutes. And I feel like we all can kind of carve out that time. We have to be intentional, but we all can carve out that time and use it for the better, for exercising. Some health benefits associated with physical activity. So there are several health benefits, and I'm going to read some off here. So for children, there's improved cardiorespiratory and muscular fitness and improved bone health. So physical activity is good for children because it helps with their development. And for adults and older adults, um, partaking in physical activity lowers the risk of early death, lowers the risk of stroke, lowers risk of certain cancers like colon and breast cancer, and can actually reduce depression. So when you exercise, you release endorphins, which are called like your feel-good hormones. And this is why it's often recommended to work out like early in the morning, kind of get your day started on the right foot. Um, the next thing I want to point out is that Physical activity, there are so many ways that we could partake in physical activity. So you don't need a gym membership. I know when it's nice, during this time of year when the sun is out and it's not too cold, I like to go to the park. I like to just walk at the park. And then also, you can work out at home. There are platforms like YouTube that have so many different type of workouts, stretches, all types of stuff. And then recently, a friend showed me this app called Fit On, and that is another good resource as well. That app is, I believe it's free, and it has workouts for essentially anyone. They have workouts for, women who are postpartum. They have examples of workouts you could do with your kids. So it's really showing like we have no excuse. And I know for those of us who kind of lead a busy lifestyle, this may be, we may be thinking about how to get this in, but you'd be surprised if you kind of carve out certain things, spend less time on, our phones and social media and things like that, we can find the time to invest in our health, which is one of the best investments ever. Next, I want to talk about the importance of drinking water. So most of our body is consists of water. So that means we need to be replenishing it. So we lose water when we sweat, when we pee. So we need to make sure that we're always, making sure that the water is not depleted. The water intake is not depleted. Um, I know for many people, just the taste of regular plain water can be bland. So if you like, you can cut up fruit and put in your water. But it is so important to drink water. There are so many different recommendations on how much water intake you should be getting a day. Um, one that I've recently, or one that I've been following, is drinking half of your body weight in ounces. So, for example, if you weigh 120 pounds, so you're making sure you get 60 ounces of water every single day. Other resources say that it's good for adults to get 2 to 3 liters of water, especially on hot days, and for children to drink 1 to 2 liters of water per day. Next, here we have sunlight. So sunlight is beneficial for vitamin D. It helps enhance our mood. It protects against, oddly enough, skin cancer, and it promotes good sleep. So for those of us who live in Ohio, we don't always get a good amount of sun. So a supplement may be needed. But when we do have those sunny days, we, se profite, like go outside, bask in the sun,
Yeah.
of course, with precaution. Um, so for example, in terms of, your, they say in terms of your skin color, so if your skin is slightly darker, you can afford more time in the sun. If your skin's slightly lighter, not as much time. But always, for those of us who can't spend as much time in the sun because of our complexion, adding sunscreen. But sunlight is very, very important, and it has a great effect on our health. And this picture here is actually when I went to Haiti in 2017, and we had many days when we were basking in the sun. So a climate like that, I think, is ideal for us. But again, for those of us who live in the States, specifically like the Northeast or the Midwest, we're not getting as much sun. So we may have to resort to other resources. But again, when we do have those sunny days, it's best that we take advantage. Next, I want to talk about temperance. So temperance is very important. So we're talking about diet and exercise and things like that. So we should definitely control what we eat, but we should also control other aspects of ourselves as well. And I truly believe that it takes a supernatural, power to help us with this. But it's something that's critical. So there's an author named Stephen Nelson Haskell, and in his book called The Cross and Its Shadow, he says, by beholding, we become changed. And that's true. If we don't have boundaries, or if we don't, put a cap on how much time we spend watching something, or, what we watch, we will, whether we realize it or not, we will be conformed to those things.
Yeah.
And same thing with what we eat. If we don't control what we eat, we'll fall into a trap to the point where we're addicted to certain foods that are not healthful at all. So this is something that we need to definitely keep in mind. Next, I want to talk about the importance of fresh air. So, um, the benefits listed here are actually based on not just fresh air, but also walking, like exercise and sunlight. So I call those like the triple threat. So if you get a chance when the weather's nice, if you do these, if you get to go to a park, you're getting, your fresh air, your exercise, and your sunlight, and all those three together promote better respiratory system. They boost your respiratory system. It helps refresh your brain, it strengthens the immune system, and it also relieves stress. I know many of us are stressed, like, the American lifestyle and just lifestyles in general, wherever you are, is stressful, especially these days. So, um, having fresh air is important. And if you're not able to get outside, definitely keep your windows open. Even in the wintertime, just crack your windows. That circulation is so needed. And um, indoor, like bad indoor air quality has been um, tied to diseases like asthma. So we need to be cautious of our environment and just getting that circulation as much as we can. Next, I want to talk about the importance of rest. So there are some recommendations here of the amount of rest that each, age group should get. Adults need about 7 to 9 hours, teens 8 to 10, children 10 to 11, and infants about 16. I understand that this may not be ideal for, families with young children, but I strongly recommend having at least one day where you just kind of stop and just kind of let life do its own thing, but just stop and kind of regroup. Um, a day that I think is perfect for this is like a Saturday, the end of the week. You can stop and reflect on how things have gone throughout the week, how you made it throughout the week. It's good to just stop for a second and let the hustle and bustle worry about itself. Um, Lastly, I want to talk about the importance of trust. It is so important for us to reflect, and for those of us who pray, it's important. We often say, plus de prière, plus de puissance, and that's so true. When we can stop and just kind of admit that we're not in control, or that we can't control everything around us, that is healthy for us, because we're in a sense letting go, and um, we're kind of taking things at our own pace. Another thing that has been really helpful on this aspect of trust is to give thanks. This has actually kind of like transformed my life, but giving thanks is so helpful to just your overall being. I would suggest I would suggest first thing in the morning, if you like, get a journal and write down 3 things that you're thankful for, and you'll just see how that will transform your life. Like, I truly believe that in the midst of all that we go through, there's at least one thing to be thankful for. And
Yeah.
having this mindset can definitely just make things better for us, can really help us. Um, Next, I want to mention music. So, especially on those days where we feel like we have no trust in anything going around us and things are just falling apart, music is powerful. Of course, depending on the type of music. So specifically, inspirational music, even classical music, has been tied to lifting up the mood and just helping people stress wise and mentally overall. Music is very, very important, and I know as a community we value music a lot, but there's a certain type that can really, really help us and grow us and help us to trust even when we can't understand. There are certain songs that you could sing that could just kind of help you get through life even when everything is falling apart. So lastly, I want to leave us with this verse in so ou ka jwen li nan 3 Jean verset 2. Mwen souhaite ou en santé nan corps ou tankou en santé nan l'esprit ou. So in English that says, "Beloved, I pray that you may prosper in all things and be in health, just as your soul prospers." So to me, this verse says that the spiritual and the physical, they go hand in hand. When we're doing well physically, in turn, we're doing well spiritually. And, I want to add even mentally as well. So, God has given us we can't just, for example, we can't just pray to be in good health. Like God has given us a conscious, God has given us the freedom of choice. So we need to make those choices that'll be helpful to our bodies, and in turn they'll help us spiritually as well. So that is all I have. Thank you again, Mark, for letting me share.
Yeah, I mean, this is great. And of course, there are some questions that you will need to answer for us, because this is very good information, and I think more people need to hear this. So we may ask you to come back again and share more, even share the same thing, because we really want people to benefit from all of this good information you just shared. And and I know, as Haitians, uh, we have some good practices, we have some not so good practices, and it's always good to listen to a professional or to an expert when it comes to how to take care of our bodies. Especially in the last year, it's been a very challenging year for so many people. I don't want to say all of us, but I mean mostly all of us. And that kind of, me personally, makes me think twice, but how I treat my body and what I put in it. So I think, again, this is very, very, very important. So what is a practical way for families and those who lead a busy life to adapt the health principles that you mentioned?
I think a practical way for families to adapt these health principles is to incorporate the whole family. So, for example, if you have young children, exercise with them, make the healthy meals with them, ask them for their input on which fruits or vegetables they want to try. I think that makes it like that makes it in a way that everyone's encouraging each other. Like it's becoming like a group effort for
Yeah.
everyone to adapt these principles.
Yeah, very important. And I know sometimes some stuff might taste good for us, but actually they're not too good for our bodies. And sometimes we just go by our taste buds. But hey, I guess now it's time to kind of change that mindset. So, how do you get enough protein on a plant-based diet?
So, uh, to get enough protein on a plant-based diet, this has been kind of the talk for some time now, but it's not as hard as it may seem. And in terms of like the plant-based, eating more fruits and vegetables, if we do that, we become more inclined to those foods, and they taste good. So, for example, if you're if you eat, the more of what you eat is what you're more likely to have a taste for. So if you eat like donuts and chips more often, you'll have a taste for that. But if you switch over to more plant-based food, you'll find that you'll lose the taste for the more refined and fried stuff. So kind of going back to the question about getting enough protein, we get more than enough protein in eating just fruits and vegetables and legumes. And for example, a common dish, like a staple, a Haitian staple, jus à pois, rice and beans, that in and of itself is a complete protein. So
Yeah.
when you have your grain and your beans right there, that is good for us. There are so many other beans that are good for us as well, like chickpeas. Those are good sources of protein. And believe it or not, certain fruits and vegetables have protein as well. I mean, it's not a massive amount, but if you eat more, if you eat a large amount of those fruits and vegetables, they add up. And essentially, we're not missing anything when it comes to protein.
Okay, very good. So, again, as Haitians, nous gagnons habitude comme si nous plus kwen nan remède naturel que, l'autre bagay docteur a prescrit. So what about vitamin supplements? Should I be taking them, or are these okay for spécialement haïtien qui pas grandi dans un système comme ça? So what can you tell us about vitamin supplements?
First and foremost, I would say definitely reach out to a doctor to confirm to see what you may need. Like they would run blood work to see what you may be deficient in and give you supplements based on that. But in general, pour Haïtiens qui habitent in Ohio, comme on te dit, nous pas gain un peu soleil, so we're not getting enough vitamin D. So, for example, I personally take a vitamin D supplement, um, but that's based on just the facts of where we live and things like that. But definitely reach out to a doctor about that, and they could give more insight on that.
Okay. Yeah, very good. So, what about using those principles, or I mean, are these enough, or should I still be taking my medication?
So I would say adapting these principles, definitely still, if you're on medication, definitely still take your medication and start adapting them. And then, talk with your doctor, tell them what you're doing, and, they may monitor you over, a period of time and see improvement. And, at their will, at what they say, they can maybe start taking you off. But, these principles for those of you who are taking medication, I wouldn't say eventually the goal is for these principles to take the place of medication, but it's not a complete substitution at the beginning type thing. So definitely incorporate them into what's already being done in terms of medication, and in the long term you could see a point where you won't have to take medication.
Okay, okay. This question just popped in my head as you talk. What about group age? I mean, um, does this thing work differently for different group age, or just the same for everyone?
That's a good question. I would say there's an improvement overall for any group age that takes on these principles, that adds on these principles, these health principles. I don't know the exact research on like the statistics on whether it helps a certain age group better than the other, but I could say in general it helps. Like it doesn't hurt for any age group to adapt these health principles.
Okay, okay, good. Yeah, I mean, I know people try different things based on probably how they grew up, or based on the type of lifestyle uh, they lead. But I think these principles are kind of universal, and they probably will work for anybody. So I guess it's just time to start putting them into practice. uh, these were very good information, Ednice, and thank you so much for your expertise and for really taking time to share these with the Haitian community. I know we need people like you to help us live a better life. Again, because we are living in a pandemic era, in pandemic time. I know people are taking a lot of precautions on how they eat, where they go. So this information, these principles that you just shared would kind of add on top of probably what people already know. And for some people, these are very, very brand new information. And we thank you for that. So if somebody wants to get in touch with Ednice for more questions, how can they do that?
They can reach out to me on Facebook, so Ednice Wagnac, and or they can reach out via my email. So it's ednicew@gmail.com. And I'd be happy to help as much as I can. So,
All right, sounds good. So email is Ednice Wagnac, ednicew@gmail.com. And she's on Facebook, she's on Instagram, and you should be able to just type her name and she will come up. Thank you so much, Ednice, for taking time off of your precious and busy time to come on our live and share with the Haitian community, not only in Columbus, Ohio, but we have people watching us from everywhere, and I'm sure this will benefit you know our community in a very, very positive way. Thank you again, and hopefully we will get you back so you can share more.
yes, definitely.
Last word.
Well, again, this is important to me. And honestly, these are principles that I've applied to my life. So I'm coming to you as, a witness that they work, they
Right.
help us in so many ways. So if I can help any of you adapt these new principles and show you that it's doable, I'd be more than happy to do that because, our people, we have such a beautiful community. The Haitian community, our culture is beautiful, and we're to continue on. So if I could do anything to help, I'd be more than happy to.
All right, sounds awesome, and we really appreciate you for that. Again, thank you so much for tuning in tonight to listen and learn from an expert in public health, Ednice Wagnac. She came on and shared some very good principles with us tonight for how we should take care of ourselves better. Thank you so much for watching. We will see you next time.